I'll say that I don't know where to watch it. We found this first episode on YouTube somewhere.
It's tough. In Living Color is a place in which you can do what you want to do.
In Living Color's first episode was from 1990. That's practically the late 80s.
In Living Color is the representation that was sorely needed in sketch comedy.
Poignant. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. And we've done it 100 times.
Yep.
Woo!
This is it, baby.
Theoretically.
And you didn't get canceled.
And then this is it. And then this is the last one. This is the series finale.
Rico, from your lips to Twitter's ears, this is the episode that gets us canceled. Yes, this is the one.
Surprising it took this long, to be honest. But hey, what are you going to do, right? Jeez.
Okay.
It had to be a Rico episode, of course.
Yeah.
No recourse. So
you want to get canceled?
We like to review shows. If you want us to review a show, in the comments below, just type in WTF and the show. If you wanted us to do In Living Color last week, you could have said WTF In Living Color. That stands for Watch the First. Or you could be like WTF Wings or WTF 227 or WTF Pretty Little Lies. Yes.
You use Wings as an example a lot, Ryan.
It's because
he really wants to do Wings.
I've never even watched it.
Dude, you always use Wings.
I panic and I say Snorks and Smurfs all the time, but I do want to
Tony
do
Shalhoub, Thomas Hayden Church.
Have you guys done Snorks?
That guy was in Coach. No, but I want to do it. I don't know if Mike does. Probably not. He wants to do Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, I do want to do Fraggle Rock.
We should do
for sure.
Pee-wee's Playhouse, you guys. WTF.
Yes.
Pee-wee's
Playhouse.
Yeah.
Definitely
Rob Zombie worked on that show. He was like a PA. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah. So let's introduce everybody. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Michael Kinnan Rosenberg is here. We're the co-creators and superstars of Fallingtower. And Rico Anderson is also a superstar, but in other venues like acting, also in acting.
Don't forget acting, I was going to say, yeah.
Ah, shoot. Yes. Acting.
I'd really like to get into acting someday, But maybe
we'll talk about all that later, though, for sure.
Okay, good.
Right. So let's talk about this show. Please do us a favor. Give us a like. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Share it with your friends. Be like, hey, you guys, they're about to talk about In Living Color right now. Check it out. All right.
And acting.
That covers everything, right?
Or check it out if you don't live in Canada.
You're normal. All right. So let's just start. Let's play. Okay. Here we go.
Let's play. Let's go.
First game, my favorite game. We like to predict what the other person thought. Michael and I have known each other for over a score. That's a long time. So we can usually predict. We know Rico for quite some time. We might be able to predict this one. Michael likes to call this
predicaments is what Ryan named it. I'm just the one that pronounces it. So that proclaims it to the world. But Ryan was actually like, we should call this predicaments because we put ourselves in a predicament with our predictions.
Okay, that is an A+ impression of me, though, honestly. Wow, that was spot on.
He always whispers. That's what Ryan does.
Yeah.
He's just one big whisper.
I don't.
Yeah.
So, Michael and everybody, play at home. Make your predictions either in the live chat or in the comments below. But listen to these answers for maybe some hints. Michael, I predict that you enjoyed this fairly strongly. I feel like you enjoyed this fairly strongly.
Okay.
Pretty strongly. Rico, I believe that you like this also very strongly, but even more strongly possibly than Michael. Michael's going to be very high. You're going to be even more very high. You like just about everything, but I think you very much like this. But Michael, what do you think? What do you think?
Ryan is always a tough nut to crack. especially with these kinds of specialty comedy shows, like it's not quite a variety show, but it's a sketch comedy show. And Brian historically has not liked some of the sketch comedy shows that I have tried to get him to watch. So I'm going to say that Ryan is probably going to be very, very, very medium on this show. Very, 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 very in the 4 to 6 range for sure.
It's pretty medium.
And then Rico Anderson is going to be a double plus on this one.
You calling me
Double
fat?
plus.
Yeah.
Yes. Double
Extra
plus
L.
double X. Yeah. He's going to be a double X on this one in like 8 to 10 range.
Say it to the Black Medallion, Rosenberg.
8 to 10 range.
That's your superhero name, by the way, Rico.
What,
Black
Black
Medallion?
Medallion or Rosenberg?
Rosenberg, obviously.
Oh, okay.
The Pink Mountain, duh.
Say my name. Oh, wait, that's Heisenberg. Never mind. All right.
You goddamn right.
So
Rico, your turn.
Oh, okay.
It's like get back on track.
I think Ryan really liked this because I think there's some things in the show that Ryan, loved as a part of just growing up, and that was a really sucky way of saying it. But anyway, I think that Ryan, I did not need your head bobbing. Yes, Michael King Rosenberg. But yeah, I think that Ryan really enjoyed the show. A lot of nostalgia that I think Ryan really appreciated. Michael, I think you liked it. I don't think you fully loved it, but I thought you appreciated it, but not as much as Ryan appreciated it.
So you're saying that I'm going to be high, or you're saying that Ryan is going to be higher on a show than I am?
It's happened.
Sure.
All right. So
Very
everybody at
rarely,
home,
but
you've
yes.
gotten some hints, although these hints are all different. So you're going to have to kind of pick a horse, make your predictions now, your
lane.
predicaments. Yeah.
Of course.
Do you think I liked it? Do you think Michael liked it? Do you think Rico liked it? And how much and why? Okay. It's time to find out bit by bit how we really felt about it. In this next game, we like to compare. And by the way, Josh Sussman, yes, they are games.
Not yet.
What kind of games?
First, Ryan, you're forgetting that I need to buy people some time to make their predictions.
That's also a game, but yeah, you're right. Okay. So while you're typing feverishly in on your predictions, your predicaments, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg is going to assist you along the way by telling us, what is this show even about?
And this is a game that I did not name this one. Ryan did not name this one. This has been named by the chat pack. This is called The Voice of the Narrator. The Wayans siblings.
Sorry.
I can take this. The Wayans siblings present an African-American focused sketch comedy show. In this episode, Skit 1, Love Connection, Robin Givens and Mike Tyson. Skit 2, Great Moments in Black History, First Black Man on the Moon. Skit number 3, Homeboy Shopping Network. Skit number 4, Red Fox Tax Advice. Skit number 5, Equity Express. Skit 6, Men on Film.
Skit.
Wait, that's what. So they actually tell you like what all the skits are. That's great.
One small correction. It's Men on Films.
Well, it says Men on Film, and
at least that's
thing on.
Well, that's how
IMDb.
they said it in the thing. Never mind. It's
No, I think that's fine. I agree that's the. So actually, I did change one thing. Originally, it said Love Connection, Jewish woman with black man. I was like, what? That's not what it was. It was Robin Givens and Mike Tyson.
Yeah, Jewish woman with black man.
Unless Robin Givens is Jewish and we didn't know about it.
Somebody's writing these things and they're like, It's a Jewish woman with a
Yeah.
angry black man.
You know
Sure, why
what it could have been is originally like they're like, hey, we can have like love connection, and we'll have a Jewish woman. She loves the jewelry, and she loves like getting bought expensive jewelry, and then she'll be with like a black man, maybe like a famous boxer or something like that.
He looks like a black man.
But then the talent that they had was like, well, I can do this impression, or I can do that impression, or maybe there's a producer, maybe Keenan was like, let's spice it up. Let's, add to this by making it characters they know.
More topical too.
So if we're not careful, we're going to start giving away whether we liked it. But first we have to discuss what we expected versus what we got in a little game that Michael likes to call.
This is another game that Ryan named, but
I promise.
But I do love to say what the name is. It's Expectations. It's the crossroads between what we expected versus what we got.
Crossroads. I like that. That's cool.
You guys, when you guys get sponsored, you really need to have some graphics that just pops these words up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we got these that are cool.
Yeah, you can make that for us. So I guess I'll go first because Ryan loves to make me go first because he likes to be the last to go so that he can think the most. But smartly, because I know that I'm always going to be first, I always write down what I expected versus what I got. And what I expected is a show that I used to love when I was a kid. I would watch this show every week. I loved it. Rico has a shirt on, so that's nice too, that he's not naked.
That was the first.
Yeah, I used to love this show. I mean, I've always been a huge sketch comedy fan. This show is a big part of that. This was not the very first sketch comedy show that I ever watched, but it is the second sketch comedy show that I ever watched. I believe even before Saturday Night Live. I don't think I was watching Saturday Night Live at this age. But I was watching In Living Color, and I did love it. So that's what I expected. I expected, okay, but I did expect that some of the jokes would be dated.
Rico, what did you expect before you watched this first episode?
So I expected. I have to agree with Michael on the
that I loved it.
Exactly. What the hell was I thinking earlier? The show being, of course, very dated, and I expected that to be the case considering the time and the show tapping into what was culturally happening at the time. But I also expected a lot of funny. A lot of talent that at the time was very untapped, and I expected some great nostalgia and a great just a really a really cool fun ride that brought back some really cool memories, and really it made me smile. I expected to smile. Because God knows I never smile. So I expected to smile. And there you go. That's all I got.
I'm checking right now because we forgot to mention who suggested this, but we'll check that later. Okay. I'll tell y'all what I expected. When Michael mentioned just now was the second sketch comedy thing he'd ever seen, I thought about it. I'm like, I think this is the first one I had ever seen as a child. And Michael, yeah, I know you love sketch comedy, which is why I think you were very high on this. That one, I'm like, put Michael in front of sketch comedy and you can roll the dice and everyone's a winner. Okay. But for me, what I expected was to have a good time watching this and a good time reviewing it, because I have very fond memories of watching this as a kid. And just the thought of it makes me happy and brings me joy. and puts me in a good place. So I thought that watching it would do the same. And we all know the fucking song. We can all sing the song out of anywhere. You could be in the line at the grocery store. You could be in bed. You could be in the shower. You know the song. So even thinking about the song is probably going to put you in a good mood. Anyway, so that's what I expected. I expected to, hey, it's our 100th episode. I'm thinking I want to have fun. That's what girls just want to do. And so I was really excited doing Live in Color. I don't think Michael and I tell each other if we're excited, because then that gives it away. But that's what I expected.
That's true. Yeah.
But Michael, what did you actually 30 years later get?
Well, I am happy that it seems like everybody here is equally kind. I love the theme song. Like right away, you just start kind of like jamming along with it. In Living Color. It's a great theme song. I like how long it is too. It's like it keeps going, and then they got the Fly Girls who come out, and they're just dancing it up and doing all sorts of crazy hip hop 90s dance moves that are, obviously those are dated too. All the dress is dated, but I did wear my red shirt in honor of In Living Color today, the most colorful shirt that I own. So I enjoyed it, but some of the jokes were dated, and so I did not enjoy it as much as when I was a kid and it was new and it was all fresh and it was
funky fresh.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
It's fresh.
But I did quite enjoy it.
Okay, Rico, though, what did you actually get?
Why
Be honest.
That, man. Why you say it? Hey man, I got a fun ride. I got what I expected from the show. I got some great representation of comedy, some fun representation of comedy that you really didn't see a lot of in other like SNL. You saw it, but you didn't see a lot of it. Or you didn't see an equal amount of it, I should say. And this is one of the things that I appreciate about the show and what I did get from it. And like Michael, who wore the bright red, I was inspired to wear something very 90s inspired. This is actually from a company called Teddy Blaze that sponsors me.
We're gonna have to black that out then. So.
That is extremely 90s, though. When you popped up with that, I thought that shirt came from the 90s. I thought that you're like, time to bust out my 1991 threads.
I know.
Pretty awesome.
had to dust it off. But no, this is one of many styles that they create. It's not all this particular thing, but I saw this. I was like, I got to throw this on. Now, this is considered a black medallion, which has the Africa symbol on it. And this was very popular in the 90s. This is actually something I wore in the 90s. So I had to throw that on as a homage. I almost put on a hat and, kind of tilted it sideways, but I decided not to do that. But yeah, I got a very fun show. And I like Michael, like you, I loved seeing just all the different sketches and, the Fly Girls and just the styles. And it's good to laugh when you look at like some of the styles back then. And, just with a lot of stuff, you're just like, man, what the hell were we thinking back then when we had our hair like this, when we wore those pants, when we wore those shirts, or
when we wore our clothes backwards. I should have worn my shirt backwards.
Like
crisscross will make you jump,
Right. And like Ryan, even when you and I earlier were talking about parachute pants, and just that whole.
I'm telling you, those are actually coming back. Anyway, but those are coming back right now. Everybody knows it, and it's gross. But was that what you expected? Did we get that?
That's what you got.
All right. Sorry, what you got? Because I was already thinking, I got lost in my own thoughts, and I was thinking, Rico, you did all that with the shirt, you did all that with the medallion, but why don't you have the diagonal fro? That's the diagonal flat top. Why didn't you cut that in? It wouldn't have
The
taken
Gumby.
or the kid
Yes,
who
the
plays-
Gumby. The
the
Gumby.
kid,
Exactly.
yeah, the Gumby, yeah.
The Gumby.
Okay.
Well, if I had
The
more
kid-
hair
the
in my
kid
head, I
flat
could
top.
probably rock it. Yeah.
I'll do
yeah.
it. Can't even see my, there it is. Okay. So what I actually got, sadly, was a very enjoyable evening watching a show that I knew I was going to enjoy. I would have been shocked if I didn't enjoy it, because I don't think that's something that you can get wrong. Like, the way you remember it is how it is. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think that it'd be like a cartoon that you remember as a child and you're like, oh, it was so cool. And then you watch it now, you're like, oh, that's terrible.
Oh,
I was
He-Man?
like, yeah, no, He-Man is magic. Anyway, so I enjoyed it very much. As soon as the song came in, I was happy. I enjoyed it. I was a little surprised by some things that we could get into right now. For one, I was surprised that it was only a half an hour instead of an hour. Shows like Saturday Night Live and all the others were an hour.
I
And
remember
was
it being
like,
a half hour.
see, I never really thought of it. I only thought of it when I was watching it. I was like, oh, that's weird. Half an hour. Other sketch comedy shows, or at least SNL, are an hour. And I was wondering if it was deliberately an hour, or if it was deliberately a half hour, or they only had the half hour time slot, so they made sure to keep it condensed. But either way, I thought it actually worked, because the sketch comedy, they were shorter, and some of them were only 30 seconds, but they were like quick hits, boom, boom, boom. Actually, yeah, SNL is an hour and a half, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, at once upon a time, it actually used to be 2 hours, and then they
Weird.
chopped it down to an hour and a half. But yeah,
Calm down, SNL. Jeez.
Well, I was gonna say most other sketch comedy shows are a half hour.
Right, like the
Kids
State,
in the Hall,
Kids in the
The
Hall, Second
State.
City.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
All those shows are all a half hour anyway. So it
Yeah.
did not surprise me at all that the show was a half hour. I mean, I think SNL is the outlier.
Yeah.
But also SNL is more of a true variety show too, because they have the musical acts in there as well. And before, like when SNL first started, they had like stand-up comics come out. They had short film. I guess they still have short films, but that's, but a lot of times too, the sketches are so long just because they need to fill all that time.
They got the room for it.
Yeah. But in like a half hour sketch comedy show, like in Living Color, you can do those quick hits. And I think it's better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think
didn't miss
works.
it at all.
Yeah. It's very condensed, very packed in, but it works. I mean, even without a musical guest, I mean, in a way it kind of makes it, I don't want to say better, but it makes it very different in the sense that it's like we're about to hit you with not counting the commercials, 25 minutes of just pure comedy. Here you go. Let's go.
And Fly Girls.
Yeah, see, I did get a little bit of the variety hour feel, because he introduced the DJ. The DJ was part of the show. It wasn't just like the band playing in the background. He introduced the DJ. He's like, play me out, DJ, SW1 or whatever it was.
SW1,
Right.
yeah.
And then he introduced each individual Fly Girl as if they were guests of the show. I thought that was a classy move. And I also thought, I don't remember if they did that every episode, but I liked it. It made it feel more like everybody there is equally kind. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And everybody's part of the show. This is the musical act. These are the dance people. The one lady introduces him. I was like, this is a great way. It felt more like a variety hour to me because of all of that. They added more to the show for me, and they did it fairly quickly. And the ladies had a nice dance number a couple times. They had their fun.
Now, just so people who don't know this know now, the Fly Girls consisted of many different ladies throughout the years, but
J-Lo.
you had three fairly very famous ones, J-Lo being the most famous, but you also had Rosie Perez, who was in Do the Right Thing and just
White Man Can't Jump.
White Man Can't Jump, yeah. And it has a very long, illustrious career still even today. And also Carrie Ann Inaba, who is one of the judges on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh,
So
cool.
she was on it, and those are the three most famous ones. But yeah, they started off as Fly Girls. So SW1 is actually the cool thing about this show that I loved is that it was created by Keenan Ivory Wayans, and he literally just hooked his whole family up, and everybody got it.
I'm gonna stop you there, because I feel like his family hooked him up because they're freaking talented as hell. Damon Wayans, ain't nobody hooking him up. I feel like Damon Wayans brought In Living Color to a different level. But anyway, sorry, I just had to jump in there and be like, technically, yeah, he hooked them up, but it wasn't like a favor. Like they're great.
So you're saying instead of Keenan Ivory Wayans saying thank you, or them saying thank you, he should be saying no, thank you.
I think they should all be thanking each other. What I'm saying is there were no favors. There was no dead weight. I feel like that Keenan Ivory Wayans, I don't know what the story behind it is, but he clearly is a big player in the history of television because of what he did. I don't know, if he was just the front man or if he put down the money himself. I don't really know the genesis of it all, but
wasn't he like a producer or something? I mean, they did I'm Gonna Get You Sucka, which was like a huge hit. And I think that
so he probably fronted some of his own money, I'm just guessing, but clearly they owe him for giving them a job and giving them a career, but I'm sure he was never like, yeah, you guys owe me, because they're an extremely talented family.
Well, with In Living Color coming out at the time when Fox was really a baby at the time, like the Fox channel, the Fox network. I know it was a little Fox, a little pup.
I am not going to I was about to Google Fox, but I'm going to leave that alone.
Yes, please, Brian.
Yes.
I'm going to Google young Fox.
Right, or Foxy, and it's like, oh, great. But no, I think they were probably looking at the fact that, hey, we could do a Saturday Night Live type thing. Now, of course, they also had Mad TV, but I think
Mad TV wasn't around at this time.
I think Mad TV came out
after. Was it after? Oh, okay, all right. So, but still, it was like everybody I remember back then called this the Black Saturday Night Live. So
they didn't call it the Black Mad TV. I'll tell you that much, because if I remember correctly, when I tried watching Mad TV, it didn't do anything for me.
It didn't have the same but yeah, it was a player for a while though also. But yeah, man,
it was around for a long time. Yeah, WTF Mad TV.
Yes, I would love to WTF.
By the way, WTF TV. Kids in the Hall, WTF The States, WTF Mr.
SNL.
Show with Bob and David. WTF Mr. SNL. I don't think we're gonna WTF that one because it's like 2 hours long. So
WTF Mad TV, because I remember wanting it to be good and being like, but maybe it is good. I remember, who are the people that came out of there? There were some pretty big names.
Oh, there's tons.
Yeah.
Well, Phil Lamar was one.
Phil Lamar
is in it.
Really?
I mean, both Key and Peele were on Mad TV.
Right. Okay.
Hey, WTF Key and Peele.
WTF Key and Peele. Yeah, that's another half-hour sketch show too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, look at the talent that came out of this. Everybody who was on this show, like the beginning cast, everybody had a level of success coming out of this show. Jim Carrey being the largest talent, but honestly, when you look at everybody else, everybody was pretty equal when it came to talent. Jim Carrey went on to have a humongous film career, but like Damon Wayans was on the show My Wife and Kids. He had a long film career.
Sean and Marlon got movies and things like that.
They also had the show The Wayans Brothers as well, with John Witherspoon and their sister. So I mean, and then David Alan Grier
is awesome. Here's something I didn't know, though. Yeah. Speaking of
Tommy
the people
Davidson.
that went on to other things, not to give any movie magic spoilers, but I did watch a previous show we did was Living Single, and I I happened to watch Living Single on the same night as I watched In Living Color in preparation for future recordings. So I watched Living Single, and there was a favorite character of mine.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. Really, really good standout person, right? And that put on In Living Color, very first sketch comedy with Robin Givens. And I was like, that's the same girl I just saw 30 seconds ago. Like, I swear. Yeah, Kim Cole. So I immediately just paused it, went to IMDb, and I was like, okay, there's no way that's not the same girl I just freaking saw. So anyway, so she went on a few years later to have a great career as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Are you sure that was Kim Cole's?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also watched both shows in preparation for recording.
Because I had no idea, but it's unmistakable. She's got great expression in her eyes. Really good. Really good.
I thought it was the innocent at first. I could be wrong. Okay. There you go.
Did you guys have a favorite sketch comedy bit or a skit, as they called it on IMDb, I think?
Let's see. In this first episode,
man,
I'm go ahead if you know.
I'm Men on Film.
Yeah, I knew you. Me Rico.
Too, that's
my friend and I in middle school used to always quote. We'd always be like, whenever somebody would be upset about it, don't get mad.
Right.
It's so patronizing. Don't get mad. All concerned.
That was one of the favorites because they didn't come on every week, but when they did, that just got that. Whoa! All right, benefit. Yeah.
I have to tell you guys something about that sketch. When I first saw that sketch in like middle school, I don't know that I realized that they were gay. I don't even know if I knew what gay meant at that point.
Almost makes it more fun because then you're just thinking, wow, they're funny.
It was just
weird.
Funny. It was just funny. Yeah, it was just a funny sketch to me.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the song "Raining Men" had to do or with anything. I didn't. I might have, but I really don't think that I did.
Yeah. Back then, I didn't even know that the Bee Gees were men, so I thought they were all chicks.
That's a whole other conversation. No,
but what I'm saying is, when you're younger, you're just kind of watching with innocent eyes or listening, and you're not really aware of all these other things. And that's good comedy. Is if it's still funny, even it's got layers to it, and that's how a lot of these animated shows do well. Is for kids, they're still laughing at stuff, even though they don't get half the stuff that the adults are getting. But it was funny. What were your favorite shows, favorite sketches throughout In Living Color? Looking back on the time warp, because for me it was
Clown,
Fire Marshal Bill.
Man, for me,
but
for
Vera
me, it was Anton for me. Anton, I'll bring my own facilities.
Oh yeah.
That guy. I thought that's why I like Damon Wayans so much. I thought he had all the best characters.
Yeah.
He was the best.
I know we don't review movies on this show, WTF, but one of my favorite movies of Damon Wayans is A Blank Man.
I never saw it.
I think it's him and Tommy Davidson, and it's like he plays a super nerdy, cliche nerd. But then honestly, it's funny because Robin Givens is in that movie too as the romantic lead.
No way.
The actual Robin Givens, not Kim Cole's playing Robin Givens.
By the way, Tommy Davidson, another one that moved on very well. Was he 3 years old in that? I was like, oh my God, he's a baby. He's a little teeny baby in this.
Tommy Davidson is back in the animated series The Proud Family, which used to debut in the 90s, and now they're reviving it now for Disney Plus. So that's happening.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's funny, very funny animated series. I really liked what Keenan Ivory Wayans did, his impersonation of Mike Tyson in the first sketch. It was actually a really, really good impersonation.
I heard Mike Tyson liked it a lot too.
Yeah, so much that he came up to him and boom. But of course, it's also little, very sad when you hear about the history of what happened between him and Robin Givens, and just
That's
with
true.
the
Hadn't
whole
thought of that.
domestic thing, and so obviously
Thanks for bringing us down.
Debbie Downer. Oh,
We're all just like thinking about it, living
Unfurl
On
your
cloud nine,
loving
there's
all,
nothing wrong with the world. All the
reminiscing.
jokes work.
Yeah.
Nobody's hurt.
Everyone
Well,
here is
hell.
equally kind.
But then they even went as far as, again, sign of the times. They were like, so who would you go out with? Would you go out with him? It was
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And you're like, oh.
I actually, when that happened, when I saw that, I was rooting for Donald Trump to win, just for that joke to be ultimately dated. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, how funny would that be if Donald, but he didn't, but it was Mike Tyson. Because the whole, as Mike was saying, like the jokes were dated, but you could literally go through every single skit through the lens of 2022 and be like, dated it or whatever. You could be like, this is in some ways offensive, or a bitter irony, or something bad turns this into a bad joke, or any of those things. Every one of those things, none of them escapes it. But I was just like, if Donald Trump wins this, that's the cherry on the top. But I was able to watch this whole thing and not be bothered by any of that dated stuff or any of those things, because you can't blame them for what happens later. You put yourself in the world of 1990, and what these people were doing was fucking fantastic for the time, not just artistically, but morally for the time. What they were doing, they were trailblazing, they were having fun. It was such a positive feeling. Yeah, we look at it now and a lot of the jokes are offensive, but if you look at it in 1990, they weren't. They were just having fun.
A lot of the jokes were offensive. I mean, if you're making fun of gay people like in that very stereotypical way, that's a little offensive.
Right. And if you're not actually gay and you're making fun of gay people, I could see that being offensive, but it was done in a friendly and lighthearted fashion back then. But
there were a couple sketches that really focused on racism, which is not offensive, because they dealt with racism as Black people.
Like
and
the credit card one.
The credit card one was hilarious.
Right.
Which I didn't think was going to be very funny, because I was like, oh, this one's going to kind of hit too close to home.
Right.
But it was still funny, right?
Right. Yeah. They still made the sketches funny, even though they dealt with the hard-hitting realism of racism. Like the first Black man on the moon, they just left him there.
Never heard of. Right. Exactly. It's like, hey, so.
No, the gold card one, when she's like, so I asked him all these questions, and she's like, he answered all the questions correctly, but I wasn't going to give up there. So it's just in me.
And that was basically a Karen. When you think about it, it's just like, automatically assume that because he is a Black man, he could not be worthy of basically the gold card. Or in today's society, the black card. You know what I mean? Like the American
Express. Right.
Yeah, the Amex black card. Yeah, the black card. But and also being suspicious, so I had to call the police while I distracted it.
And then the other joke that she delivered really well that cracked me up, when she goes, he sued us and won. But it was still fun. like oh yeah, he sued us and he took us to court and cleaned us out, but it was still a good time.
Oh God.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Just to let you know. But yeah, what a great memory overall in terms of just what the show delivered and what the show just represented, and at a time where, and I've mentioned this before when we did A Different World, but it came at a time in the 90s when Black awareness was at an all-time high, in a good way, in terms of knowing your culture, being proud of who you are as a person,
and celebrating it,
right, and celebrating it in all the different ways, and representing, and you saw that in shows like A Different World, Cosby Show, in Living Color, Living Single, things like that. So yeah, did I freeze? Did I freeze up?
Only a little bit. We still hear you, what was great about that too, beyond all that, is that everybody else, everybody else is watching and going like, oh, this is fun. I like this. What are we, you know what I mean? Like it's a celebration of a different culture and everybody's enjoying it. Everybody's loving it. It's a great time. And by the way, Rico, you were saying earlier, what were we thinking in the 90s? I think if people start bringing back those big, colorful clothes right now, I would be very happy with it. I don't know if I have the bravery to rock that myself, but I would be very pleased because that's fun. It's interesting. It's colorful. It celebrates, differences of cultures and the African culture. And I want that shit to come back. I want those big, colorful, fun clothes. Again, I don't know if I've got the balls to do it. If someone else did it, I'd back them up.
Now, you're going to get cast in something that's going to, have that. And you're going to, it's going to be for 7 seasons. And
I'd have an excuse and I'd be very happy.
Yep.
There you go. Hey,
as long as there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll wear whatever you want.
Bruno Mars made a song called Finesse that came out, I believe, last year or the year before. And it was a huge homage to In Living Color, even down to the song itself, because there's a part of the song that actually sounds very much like the In Living Color theme. And it's a great song. It's with him and Cardi B. And it's a really fun, upbeat song. And the video is actually a recreation of the rooftop that they used with the Fly Girls when they all danced and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. And it's a direct homage and to all things In Living Color and just
what's it called again?
The fun. It's called Finesse. It's with
how many seasons did In Living Color go?
Oh, God. 5. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, but it was definitely a time. It was definitely that time. There's In Living Color. There was Arsenio Hall. In fact,
there you go.
Arsenio. I heard the Arsenio, the in the audience when they're doing that. I was like, oh my God, I wish I could go back to 1990 for one freaking day and just soak it up and be like, I'm home, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to bring back the Arsenio Hall thing. We'll see if it works.
It was there for a second. Remember, he revived the show for a while, right? And I think it lasted maybe a season or so, maybe 2.
Right. Didn't know that.
Yeah, it came back.
It was recent. It was just like a couple years ago.
WTF Arsenio Hall show.
Ooh,
mm-hmm.
Ooh,
that would be fun.
That's another one where you're just like nostalgia all over the place, just from the hairstyles to the outfits.
Well, can you even imagine the guests that they would have had in the 90s?
I know.
And how young
I remember the most uncomfortable guest I've ever seen was on an Arsenio Hall episode. He had Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen when they were kids, and they just did not open up. And he was out there like an island by himself trying to get conversation out of these 2 4-year-olds. And he was just like, so do you like, and they'd be like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. And he was just dying.
Like, I'm dying here.
And he was just like, so he got like a ball out and tried to play the ball. He was like, how do I burn up this time? I got 9 more minutes to go with these kids. Oh, it's hilarious.
They just weren't having it. God, that's a rarity, because usually that show throughout its whole run was just like, wow. It was just very like out there and flashy. And every guest was, a sight to behold. And the guests he had was amazing. So
speaking of a sight to behold, you guys, if you can believe this, it's about time we talked about you, Rico. I know you hate that.
I love that transition. Wow.
Oh no, it was
Yeah.
I was doing that, but it's actually
you gotta put something. Yeah, you gotta really put some in there.
Right.
I can't do that.
I don't want to spike the audio.
Too late for me.
So Rico, other than wearing cool shirts and getting a barber shop appointment to get your Gumby set up for this weekend, what's been new with you? What are you up to lately in the world of acting?
Yeah, you said you said you've been wanting to get into acting.
Yeah. And since I've said that, I've actually done a couple of things. And I have a couple of things in the works, which I'm very excited about. A few past shows I've mentioned Truth Be Told on Apple TV Plus, and I'll mention it again. It's currently streaming seasons 1 and 2. We will soon be in season 3 shooting, depending on, of course, all things COVID, but it will be happening this year. I'm in another film called On Smoother Dirt, which is a film about Ernie Banks, who was a baseball player in the Negro Leagues and one of the first players to cross over into the major leagues. And I play a character named Buck O'Neill, who was the manager of the Kansas City Monarchs.
Right.
And this movie stars myself, but also Academy Award winner Louis Gossett Jr., Andy Garcia.
He's a little too old to play Ernie Banks.
He's playing the elder Ernie Banks.
Cool. Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Andy Garcia is in it, and it's going to be an amazing piece. So that's
do you know who is playing Ernie Banks in that? The young version.
The young Ernie Banks.
Yeah, a newcomer. I can't remember his name, but he's a new blood that's coming on the scene and rocking it and doing his thing. I'm also in a feature that it was actually created by, we all know, Kat King, called Glass Stars, which is something that I'm excited about as well. And it also
Lisa Longo
stars
too, right?
Lisa Longo. Yeah, I was just going to say she's involved in it as well. So excited about that as well. And also, I want to use this moment to give a couple of shout outs. The NAACP Image Awards just came out, and my buddy Malcolm Spellman, who was the showrunner and creator of and writer of Falcon and Winter Soldier, he just got nominated for best writer for a dramatic series for Falcon and Winter Soldier. So shout out to him on that. And also shout out to Hannah Lee Culpepper, who directed many episodes of Star Trek Discovery and is the first woman to be to helm a Star Trek series. She directed the first 3 episodes of Star Trek Picard. So, and she wasn't nominated for Star Trek. It was for another project, but in the Trek family, and kudos, congratulations on the nomination.
Yeah,
so.
That's awesome. Hey, real quick, Rico, I was thinking, what was the first time in your acting career that you thought, wow, dude, I'm actually doing this? Like sometimes for some people, it's the first background gig they got, and they're like, hey, I'm actually getting paid to do a thing. Or sometimes it's just being cast in a non-paying short film, but it was just like their first impression, or the first time they get a line. Was there a moment for you? I mean, you probably get them a bunch, but what was the first one?
It was the first professional, like Hollywood studio SAG project that I booked, which was a TV show called The Shield. And
shit.
Yeah, it was a show on FX. It starred Michael Chiklis, and
yeah, we know.
Yeah, and I guest starred on that with Paul Ben Victor, and it was great because that was my first big booking, and I was an undercover cop, and beyond the fact that I booked it, the first thing we did was this shootout scene. So I'm involved. I'm in a shootout scene where, they're breaking the glass and, they're shooting outside the glass and everything, and everybody's ducking and getting people to safety. And it was like this whole shootout on this street between basically cops and robbers. And that was cool. It was so dope because it's like, so got a little action in as well. And I learned a very important lesson when I did that. Do not eat 2 helpings of shrimp pasta before you shoot that scene, because you get very weighed down. And just because craft service has it and you can eat as much as you want, before a scene, an action scene, you shouldn't. I
already knew that though, just because of common sense.
Yeah. Well, I common sense was flown out the window where excitement and nostalgia was kicking in.
And
I killed it still, but I was just like, oh shit, I gotta do this how many more times? Damn. All right, let's go. Whew! But yeah, that was it, man. Because it was like the first one, and I was just excited that I got it, and it was just a testament to a lot of past work that I have done, and the ball continued to roll after that. So
That's awesome. That must have been a lot of fun. Did you do any karate chops?
no karate chops. I tried, but they shot me down.
Well, we're just trying to give Michael the visual cue that it's now time for the bottom line, aka the terrible twos.
All right. That was almost a good transition.
I've never had a good transition ever.
That's why you said almost.
I'd have to pay a doctor for one.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Interesting.
Final two questions of the show. The two most important questions, really. Michael calls it the bottom line. I call it the terrible twos. I kind of acquiesce and just give up and give it the bottom line, even though it really is the terrible twos. But here we go. Question number one is Michael Canyon Rosenberg, aka the Brave One. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of In Living Color entitled Pilot?
I would give this episode, I thought about this beforehand so that I wouldn't be put on the spot, and I wrote a number down. The number that I wrote down was 8. But just thinking about it a little bit more, I'm like, I'm just going to bump it up 0.5. So I'm going with 8.5 out of 10 for this first episode. It was very enjoyable, very nostalgic, but looking at it through the lens of today, a lot of the jokes were dated. So if you've never seen this show before and you don't already have love for it, you're probably not going to fall in love with it by watching the first episode. But I very much enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Rico, your thoughts? Scale of 1 to 10.
Michael, I just want to say, first of all, I respect that score. Because the reasoning that you gave was very it made sense. It made a lot of sense. And with that, I want to say that taking the nostalgia out of the equation and all the things that I loved about it in terms of why this show was even created in the first place, why it was important to the history of TV. With all that said, I'm going to give it a 9, because when you do look at a lot of the dated comedy, I guess in a way, in that respect, it doesn't hold up, but it holds up in an even bigger picture in terms of, again, the nostalgia. We've used that word a lot, but it really does hold up in that respect. Obviously, if you're of a certain age and you remember this show, a lot of things bring back those memories and whatnot. And of course, yeah, so that happens. So, but if you are younger and you've never seen it and you're seeing all these things, a lot of stuff could go over your head. But it's really no fault of anybody, because if you think about it, sketch comedy is the sign, it really taps into the sign of the times. What's happening now? You see that every week.
WTF, what's happening now?
Oh yeah. So but with that said, that's the chance you take in that respect. But, and that 9 is just with whatever room for improvement that could be there, but also because, yeah, it is dated. But what a great
Rico,
ride.
I'll say that I respect your score, but I do not respect your explanation because I didn't really understand it all. So.
I didn't even...
Dated it. Okay, so I'll tell you mine just to complete the circle, for fun. Similarly to Michael, I actually had a number last night, and upon revisiting it, I'm bumping it up 0.5 as well. My original number was 7.5, and I'm bumping it up to an 8. Now, that's not necessarily a reflection on how I feel about it. Part of it, the problem is that I remember that there were some skits that were funnier than the ones I saw in this first one. So a lot of it is that I know that it does get funnier. So I can't give it something too high when I know that it also gets, so that's a little tough there, but it wasn't great. It was a first episode. It was their first shot, so I don't hold that too much against them, but it is what it is. Right. But I give it extra points because of how, I don't want this word to be overused, but how important it was. Not only was it part of a movement, it kind of created its own movement, a joyful, fun, exciting, it's an awesome move. It gives people joy to look back and remember it. It gives us joy to look back and watch it right now. The song makes us happy. The people, the actors that were involved in the show make us happy. When we see them, we're going like, oh, good. I'm glad he's still working, or I'm glad she's still working, So
look how young Jim Carrey is there.
Right. I find it to be a very important show, not just, for society, but just in our lives individually. It makes us happy. So, I want to give it an 8, extra points for that. And, as far as how much I enjoyed it, it's a much higher score, but, realistically, I'm sure they would look back and say it wasn't perfect and they would have liked to add some things or change some things, or their budgetary problems. But again, I don't hold that against them. So for the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of In Living Color. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, would you watch the second episode?
Definitely and gladly. I'll say that I don't know where to watch it. We found this first episode on YouTube somewhere.
It's tough.
It's not an official release. It's not technically streaming anywhere, but you can watch this first episode on YouTube. So, but yeah,
there too.
Well, yeah, there are other episodes there. I don't remember if I saw that there was episode 2 somewhere. I'm sure it's there somewhere, but so I would watch it. I would, especially if they came out with like a high quality version on a streaming or something like that. I'm thinking maybe they couldn't because of, I think there was some like music that was like licensed music or something like that. That's maybe a big problem with a lot of shows.
You can buy it on Amazon, but like the actual DVDs, but you can't
stream it.
Yeah.
Bummer. What about you, Rico? Would you watch the second?
Yeah, boy. Of course I would. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Michael, let it be known this is at the 55-minute mark for you to fix the audio there. Okay.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. 101%. Hell yeah. This is so feel good that I love the 80s and the 90s. Those were fun eras. They're the 90s being so colorful, like it was, oversized this and that, and just that wackiness, man. Look, we need this. I mean, we always need it, but there are times when we can really use that type of a happy and just, hell yeah. Hell yeah, boy.
So that's a good freeze frame. Okay. So as for me, the Debbie Downer of the group, I'll be honest, when I watched this last night, I was actually toiling with this quite a bit. I was like, I don't think I would watch the second episode because why would I? I watched it when I was a kid. I enjoyed it. I watched it, that day. I enjoyed it. But do I need to watch any more of it? No.
The question isn't, do you need to watch the second episode? Right. It's, would you watch
But that's what led me to feeling that way. Like, no, I don't really, have any real pull towards it. But I was so on the fence. So I kind of left it up. And I think today I'm going to say yes, because when I'm so borderline, I'm so 50-50, I try to look at it from other ways. And I think anybody in 1990 that turned on this episode and watched it from beginning to end, I feel like every single person would have said, yeah, I'm down. I'd like to watch the next episode, whether they were ecstatic about it or just willing to. I don't think anybody watched that first episode and said, I was very disappointed. I refuse to watch the next episode. I mean, mission accomplished, right? Anybody that watched that first episode 30 years ago would have watched the second, I believe. So for that reason, I'm going to go and say yes to it. And also because I like it. Fuck it. But anyway, that's our answers. 3 yeses. Rico, thanks very much for playing with us. This has been 100 episodes of Watch the First. We'll see you at 1,000, everybody.
If we don't get canceled after this one.
Rico froze himself. Anyway, so everybody, whatever you'd like us to review, say WTF and the show in the comments below so that we can add it and say that you told us to do it. And until then, always remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg likes to say.
Well, what I always like to say is don't forget, Ryan, to tell us what this podcast was.
That's true. He does always like to say that because I always forget. What I'd like to say is this podcast reminded me that we need to bring the fucking 90s back. We need to be that guy, Mouth, in Goonies, when he finds his penny and he says, this one was mine, and I'm taking it back. I'm taking them all back. We need to do that with the 90s.
This podcast was equally kind to In Living Color.
Yeah, this podcast reminded us to find the laughter. Always find the laughter.
Rico bringing it down for that.
Now
when Ryan falls asleep.
What Mr. Michael
now
Kenyon
remember
Rosenberg
that
always
Michael
likes to
Kenyon
say.
Rosenberg always likes to remind you to register to become an organ donor at Donate Life, please. And after that, don't forget to watch the first of things.
Hang on, Michael. Your
boy.
Your audio went out. Give it to us again so they know what you were holding up, because that's important.
What? Guys, obviously you need to register to become an organ donor at Donate Life. And then don't forget to watch the first of things. The end.
Yeah, boy.